SID visa subclass 482 came with a lot of good news and some disappointing news for some applicants. Let's talk about the eligibility criteria, the differences and losers and the winners of the overall game of the recent changes. See, the new SID, the subclass remains same, subclass 482, but there are three streams: core, specialist and the labor agreement. The core, the basic eligibility criteria remains the same: sponsorship, nomination and visa. However, the work requirement has been reduced from 2 to 1 year or equivalent to 1 year in the last 5 years. This has been clarified, which was very confusing previously under TSS visa. The requirement for the salary is under the core is 73,150 and the occupation list must be in the CSO list, which has 456 occupations, which is a great news. The second one goes with the specialist that requires a minimum salary of 135k plus all the occupations are eligible except the major groups and score 3, 7 and 8. Again, the labor agreement that varies from the agreement to agreement. The concessions remains the same, or maybe there are different concessions as compared to the core and the specialist stream. We will talk about the core and the specialist, not the labor agreement. So now the rest of the things are keywords. Keywords applies to the occupations that are on the CSL list. Just keep in mind. But just keep in mind, do it applies to all the streams? It varies. It varies. So just keep in mind. So it does not mean that if an occupation list is on the CSO list, the same keyword will apply to the specialist stream. It's not a compulsory. Just keep in mind, right? This is very important to know because you might be staying up there that the keyword applies, so we can't apply, or you have to find an employer according to that. There's no such thing like that. Just keep in mind, right? The English requirement has been overall increased to 5 each for the 482 and the 186 remains the same, 6 each. The department fee has been increased overall to $3,115 from previously short term it was around $1,300. Now it's a $3,115 for all the occupations who are eligible for under the 482 visa. Subclass basically remains the same, just the change in the name of that SID to SID visa from the TSS visa. So these are the basic changes. The new keyword, there was a confusion regarding keyword 14 that chef and cook can't apply from the specific countries. There's no such thing. The department has clarified. They have removed the keyword. Basically it was there, but they have removed after the clarification out after the question being asked on that thing, right? There new keywords has been announced, right? Brutal keeper has been removed from the hospitality next thing. There's some other changes, right? So these are the basic changes in terms of the, as I mentioned to you, salary has been divided, the English requirement has been gone up, the department fees has been gone up, the experience requirement for, as I mentioned, it has been increased from 2 to 1 year in the last 5 years, 1 year full time or equivalent. Just keep in mind, right? This has been clarified. Previously under TSS it was very confusing if the casual work or the part time will be considered or not. This will be considered as I mentioned to you. But there's some other changes are coming up, right? Before that, from 482 to 186, you should have 2 years experience under nomination. Now this has been removed. It has been moved to the visa stage, which means you can apply nomination even if you don't have the 2 years experience for 186. Just keep in mind as well. Now there is, as I mentioned in the previous video as well, now for 186, it's not a compulsory under TRT that you have to work 2 years on the 482. You could have 2 years experience in the last 3 years on any visa plus you should have a 482 visa for 2 years. You can still apply. The experience is not necessary to be on the 482. Sometimes we take the holidays, because of that we can't meet the 2 years experience requirement. As long as you have the 482 for 2 years plus 2 years experience on any visa full time, you are fine with the 186. This is a huge change if you understand what I mean, right? The other changes remain the same. The employer, now the one more thing, if you change your employer, you can, the biggest news from when you go from 482 to 186, you need a 2 years experience. That 2 years experience can be counted on basically with any employer. Previously if you change your employer from 482, then it resets with a new employer. But now, for example, if you worked for one employer, you could have worked for 6 months for that employer. With a new employer you worked for 1.5 years. You can combine 1.5 and 6 months from both employers and apply for the 186 visa. But just keep in mind, with a new employer he must be sponsored to be counted that experience. Not every experience will be counted with the new employer. Just keep in mind, and you have 180 days to work without working for the same employer. You can work in any field for 180 days and for 1 year during the whole process of 482. If you have 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, whatever the thing is, right? So these are the good concessions. Things has been changed. Now, winners and losers, majority of the things people are winners. The retail manager is the biggest winner, I would say that. The losers, I won't say the loser, but the disappointing thing is the retail managers, restaurant managers. The restaurant manager is not on the list, but the good news is if you are holding a 482 and you're a restaurant manager, you can still apply for 186. Don't worry about the list or the rest of the things. You can still apply for the 186 subject to meeting the other eligibility criteria, but unfortunately you can't apply for the 482 under core and specialist, unless you can apply for under specialist if you're getting a salary of 135k, but you can't apply under the core, and you can apply for under the labor agreement. So these are the basic changes. I hope this clarifies you. The things has been changed, the things has been implemented, the good news, bad news, winners and the losers. I hope this video clarifies everything to you. If you still need any assistance with the migration, with anything, you can book an appointment, visit our office or contact us. Thank you.